So when I first began as a principal, I believed strongly in the traditional American ethos, that anyone can succeed in this country, that all they had to do was to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. It's my strict mother, I'll credit that for her. But as a new principal, and I'm really embarrassed to say this, and I kind of vacillated back and forth on whether I should even share this. I'm embarrassed to say that I thought that stringent discipline was the answer to our kids' poor attendance, to bad grades, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the kids changed my mind. And just a quick story, because I want to illustrate this point. I had a student, he was a junior in high school, and I was just done with him. We had done, I felt like, all we could do. I mean, he was always late to school, if he showed up at all. He was disrespectful to teachers, and he was consistently starting fights. And so I had him and his mom come in for what I thought was going to be a really tough talk about, like, there's nothing else we can do. We need to find him another school. And what I learned from his mom, which took all the air out of that tough talk, was that this young man, I don't want to use his name, but this young man, who sat not even 30 minutes from where we sit now, had 13 friends and family members who were murdered in the last 4 years. 13. Now, can you imagine how your own kid might be doing in school if they had 13 friends and family members murdered in the last 4 years? People that they knew, that they walked with, talked with. That, and too many stories like it, were a fast lesson to me that kids born and raised in communities devastated by emotional trauma, social and economic abandonment, mass unemployment and incarceration, and police surveillance, and the racially infused war on drugs, they simply don't have any bootstraps to pull. Never forget that that young man and those kids that are on the south and west sides of Chicago, these are our kids. And they're just like your kids at home. And just like your kids, they had no say as to where they were born into the world. Think about that. Earlier today, there was a child born in Lincoln Park, and earlier today, a child was born in Inglewood. And right now, we all know which child has a better chance at life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. People and the press say that gun violence and the murder rate in Chicago is our biggest problem. But I can tell you, it's actually Chicago's biggest symptom. And once I knew all of this, and I realized that I couldn't unknow it, if you know what I'm saying, I just couldn't unknow it. I was indignant, and I decided to channel my indignance into action. And so my Chicago idea was to create Chicago Beyond. Chicago Beyond is based on the simple premise that there are great ideas in the communities themselves. So we look for unrecognized and under-resourced community-led ideas, like the Dovetail Project, led by Woodlawn's Sheldon Smith. And I would encourage you, if you don't know about the Dovetail Project, you should really look it up. The ethos is simple. Do nothing without me. Do nothing about me without me. It's not the traditional philanthropic approach, but clearly traditional approaches aren't working hard enough or fast enough. At this very moment, we have thousands of kids at risk. So we at Chicago Beyond believe we too must take risk in supporting these unusual suspects who are doing amazing work you've likely never heard about in our communities. Our kids are like all the kids. Our kids want to do well in school. Our kids want to work. Our kids want something to be proud of. Our kids want to go to college. Our kids are good. And we at Chicago Beyond intend to see that all of our kids in Chicago get the same shot as your kids in the pursuit of happiness. Inequality and injustice aren't just the problems of a few neighborhoods. They are the challenges of all Chicagoans. We believe with all our hearts that real and permanent change for Chicago's kids is possible. But to get there, it will require active participation from all of Chicago. And we would be so honored to have you join us, not in a spirit of charity, but in a fight for justice for our children. Thank you.